Hi, this is Brianna Mijangos, and I will give you the inside scoop of our expectancy theory video. In that video, the comedian Sammy Obeid explains and illustrates one of the most important theories of motivation. According to Victor Vroom's expectancy theory, the force that motivates you to do something is the product of the relevant expectancy, instrumentality, and valence. If what I just said makes no sense to you, please go back and watch our expectancy theory video before continuing with this one about the creative process.
Let's talk about expectancy theory. Did you expect that? It's a theory about motivation, and if that doesn't get your engine revving, then let me tell you that it was invented by a guy named Victor Vroom. Yep, that's a real person, not a character from the movie Cars.
Let me now show you scenes that did not make it into the final version. We had a take where Sammy's reward for explaining expectancy theory well was not a date, but something different.
We can sum up his theory in this equation. Motivation equals expectancy times instrumentality times valence. Thank you, good night.
Sammy,
Yes?
can you explain it better?
Didn't I already?
If you explain it well, I'll give you a bonus worth $50.
Oh?
I'll get you some grass.
Grass? Oh. 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 Ooh. Well, you know what? I am motivated. Let's go. And now you know expectancy theory. And I'm ready for my gift. Grass? Grass.
$50 worth.
Grass.
We also had a take where the couple illustrating expectancy theory switched roles.
Hey, buying a car from Vroom is so easy. All you need is a phone and a finger. Just scroll through amazing hand-picked low-mileage cars, then tap to buy. That's it. No sip.
Well, do you have a phone? And do you have a finger? Do you think you can tap and scroll well enough to buy a car? Well, you know, if you buy a car, I'll...
Oh.
And then we can read Victor Vroom's book on work and motivation all weekend long. And now I'd like to show you excerpts from an interview with the video's creators.
The origins of this project go back several years when we started collaborating with the comedian Sammy Obeid on creating humorous educational videos. And it became clear pretty quickly that injecting humor into the educational process was very effective. And so we wanted to share our experience by giving a workshop at the Academy of Management annual meeting. And we wanted to not just say what we did, but actually show the process and show the outcome of this process. And to do that, we had a brainstorming session at the virtual workshop where we crowdsourced ideas on what kinds of topics would be good to cover with one of our educational videos. And one idea that emerged that was voted as the most interesting idea to work on was to explain the expectancy theory of motivation. And the reason that it was nominated is because apparently students have trouble with understanding this concept. And so this was an opportunity to use humor to explain it in an engaging and memorable way.
I guess it took more 72 hours. Was 72 hours. About 72 hours to put together in totality.
Between the two of us?
Yes.
And
because the topic was selected around 4:30 p.m. Pacific, and we wrapped the shooting at
2:11 Pacific.
So about 70 hours in totality.
Right.
Yeah.
So the process is that there's a first draft of the script that's not that funny, but that focuses on the educational content, and then it gets iteratively punched up.
May I interrupt? David wrote the first draft of the script, and I laughed a few times. It was actually very funny. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but it was definitely funny.
That's progress. We've been working together for 2 years. So it seemed like the way to do it is you decide on the learning objectives that you want to achieve, and you really have to be very economical with those. You don't want to spread yourself too thin. And then once you have the structure, really humor can be added to any structure. There's a lot of improvisation still left for the actual shooting process. Hopefully not so much that it's going to slow you down, but there's some room for improvisation. And then in post-production, and post-production is yet to come for us, but in post-production there's also some creativity that can be added, and some value that can be added.
And in the middle steps, of course, there was some consultation required. You had to consult with a professor.
That's right. The professor suggested that we had an hour-and-a-half talk discussing what the problems are that students are having with these topics, and hopefully we were able to address them. One of the problems is the concept of valence, which is not immediately intuitive to many students who might think of rewards as being purely monetary. So we try to use examples that separate the monetary value of the reward from the actual value to the person.
Great. Yep. And I had to consult with a couple comedian friends just to make sure that the narrative was clear to a layperson. A layperson is, a great example of a layperson is a comedian. So.
And yes, and there's always a healthy tension, because you have a teacher and a comedian, and it's normal for a teacher to focus on the educational content, perhaps at the expense of humor. It's normal for the comedian to focus more on the humor content. Fortunately, Sammy has a lot of experience with teaching, and he values the pedagogical content as well. But there's always this tension you have to compromise.
Right. So, for instance, I wrote a line in there where I referred to Professor Vroom as the Vroomster, and David said, "This is just forbidden. This is strictly forbidden."
I had to compromise on a few. I had to compromise on a few things as well, and then you be the judge of whether we found the right balance. So Victor Vroom's expectancy theory apparently is one of the 3 or 4 top theories of motivation, and apparently it's one that students have trouble with, in part because of terminology, and in part because there is this somewhat subtle distinction between the objective links between, let's say, the effort and the outcome, as opposed to the subjective perception of them. And Vroom's theory is about the subjective perception, so we were trying to make that come across in the video. But the other 2 well-known theories I have learned are goal-setting theory of motivation and equity theory of motivation. And if this video is successful, we might make it a trilogy.
Right. And as someone who was introduced to the formula for the first time, I would say it's a very elegant and simple formula, this expectancy theory. But as a mathematician, I would say it has no grounding in mathematics.
And to be fair, if you consult Victor Vroom's wonderful book, Work on Motivation, as I have, he does say that don't take this thing too literally. And in fact, his preface, written some 40 years later, says that people have actually, empirical researchers trying to test his theory, have taken a little bit too literally, and we're actually measuring those 3 things and multiplying them together and seeing if it corresponds to the motivation, which incidentally he originally called force, not motivation. And so there is this. If you dig, there's a lot of rich content there.
Yeah.
And we are hoping that our video will encourage people to explore this richer content.
And we're hoping that our video in 50 years wins some kind of award.
Please.
I think, just thinking more critically about why do I value the things that I value, and what that value means to me comparatively across different kinds of rewards, and this link between the effort that you put in to what the perceived result will be. How realistic is that? Often we think that if we put an effort into something, we'll get some kind of fruition out of it. But there's not always a direct link. It doesn't always work out the way we want it to. But I think this formula actually does make you think critically. For every extra bit of effort I put in, what is the direct result, and what value does that bring me? And how do I value that comparatively to other things? Therefore, is it worth it in the grand scheme of things? I think it's a very interesting way of making decisions on a micro level.
And I would add to this that looking at it from the other perspective, from the perspective of trying to motivate and incentivize others, obviously the expectancy theory is initially intended to apply to work, to managers incentivizing workers. But if you're a professor trying to incentivize students, breaking down things into those 3 steps is actually, quite a helpful thing. So can my students achieve certain results? How will I reward them? And will those rewards be valuable to them? So I think it actually will help my teaching quite a bit.
And there's plenty of data that shows that young people value humor. So we actually worked backwards on creating a video that people would be motivated to watch.
That's very thought-provoking.
Now give me the grass.
Right, about the grass. Okay, so about that. We're in California, and now I just remember that we forgot to say this, that we're in California. We'll have to add this
We
somehow.
can add it in.
We can add it in post-production.
It's fine.
In California, in California, marijuana is legal, so no
Both
laws
medically and recreationally.
and recreationally, and no laws would be broken even if it had been marijuana.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not. It's like the Elon Musk, not a flamethrower. We're not breaking any laws. We're, so it's fine, and we are hoping that no one is offended by this. But if they are, well, too bad.
Well, the thing is, we could have made another choice, but like they say, the grass is always greener on the other side.
Beautiful. So why did we use the Vroom Incorporated ad? When you're trying to use humor to help people learn, or when you're trying to just make engaging videos in general, you want to use associations that help the learner remember the subject, help the learner associate it in a way that stays with them in the long run. And so naturally, when we have the expectancy theory, which was invented or which was developed by Victor Vroom, you free associate and you think, what could be possibly used that would help the student remember this? And the natural thing to use was the company Vroom Incorporated that sells used cars. And so if you think about how could we possibly leverage this in order to help the learner absorb this concept, it becomes pretty straightforward, and you can see it in the video. So I just want to emphasize that we could have done it with any topic. Whatever topic is given to you, if you work with stand-up comedians, they'll find some associations that will make this topic more engaging, that will make it stick in your head. In this case, it was the Vroom ad. If you had given us some other topic, we would have come up with something else. Anything can be made funny. Anything can be made engaging.
I hope you've enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look. We would love to have your comments and feedback on this video or suggestions for other educational videos you would like us to make. Happy learning!